What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Everyday Preparedness Podcast. We're on Twitter at EDPrepare, Facebook.com/EDPrepare, YouTube page, and, of course, our website, everydaypreparedness.net. Today, we're going to cover a little bit of a different topic than what most people would think would be in the preparedness mindset, and that would be financial preparedness. And we're not talking about get your gold and silver and your bartering tools, and it's going to be the collapse of the dollar. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that I'm going to tell you what stocks to buy. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. We're going to talk about common sense things that even people that don't do any kind of prepping, if you've listened to this show so far and you think we're full of a bunch of crap, this is going to be an episode where I think you could actually listen to us and understand what we're talking about. Brent, what do you think about financial preparedness? Like, do you think that's important for people, or am I just, going too crazy?
Oh, no, it's absolutely the most, I honestly, it may be one of the most important parts of, the actual mindset of being prepared. Because, if you, in today's world, the way it is, if you don't have money and, out from under credit and all that, you pretty much don't have anything, honestly. I mean, you're a slave to whoever, you have the credit to, so.
Yeah, so we'll kick that off right off the bat. One person once said that money is the root of all evil, and it truly is. You've got the mega corporations and the big banks running the whole world essentially, and they can pay off whoever they want. Money is power. Crime, money is the root of most crime. Robberies, muggings, killings, bad drug deals, whatever. It's all about money and greed. People will kill others and put others out of work and close companies and whatever, all based on greed, because the more money they've got, the more power they've got. So how do you change all this?
I was going to say, let me correct you on one thing real quick, because money's not the root of all evil. Money's just money. I mean, it's nothing more than just basically like a manifestation of value, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's totally true, because otherwise, the bartering thing wouldn't even be in talk.
Right, and, it's one of those, the actual verse is, the love of money is the root of all evil, and it's, a destructive love. Like you said, I mean, all those things you gave were perfect examples of how, that desire just to get the money, like the rap songs always like to say, I'm going to get my money. So, I mean, I know what you were saying, and I agree with your point. I just wanted to clarify the verse there, that it's the love of money. We're not demonizing money and having it and all that. It's just,
right, yeah, you're correct.
There's priorities, so.
And you got to have money to live on to a certain extent. I mean, yeah, you can barter, you can trade, you can work off things, but you got to have money, let's face it. So, but how do you kind of get out of that mindset of common day America consumerism? It seems like everybody I know is, even if maybe they have a six-figure income, they seem to be struggling. Do they need that Escalade? Do they need to have that 50 million-inch TV? Do they need to have, the satellite radio with a gazillion channels and they only listen to two? That just seems to be the common American thing now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's our whole society anymore is just, it's like based on consumerism, and honestly, I don't want to get too political in it right now, but just like corporatism. I mean, everything's built around making other people money. I mean, even, getting jobs and everything, how it's always, go to school, do this, go get a job. Well, how about create your own living instead of making money for somebody else? But, that's kind of a different topic. But no, I mean, everything. Look at your Black Friday sales. Look at, your day after sales and this and that and the other thing, your annual going out of business sales and all the other stuff. Everything's designed to drive profit. And, I think it's kind of cheapened society in general, but that may just be me.
No, you're right on that, but on the flip side of that, the consumer aspect of it, people think they need this stuff. And I'll just go back to the Black Friday thing that you just mentioned. Like, half of that stuff that they'll end up buying is like something really cheap that's like impulsed anyway, and then the next year they don't even own that thing, but yet they had to fight somebody over it and get up at who knows when to go out and get it, and probably most likely put it on a credit card. So if you're listening and you're in that mindset, how do you get out of it? Where do you start? The first thing you got to do is change your mindset. You have to get out of that consumer mindset and just come to the realization that you're here on this earth to live and to survive. That's it. You know, again, when the people first discovered this country, they weren't worrying about Air Jordans, and they weren't worrying about 100-inch TVs. They were worried about their crops, keeping warm, having a place to live. And I know it's 2015, but honestly, that's what we're still here for. Do you agree?
Yeah, for the most part. I got a hilarious mental image of the pilgrims wearing high top sneakers and stuff with the big buckle on them and everything. But
that would be pretty awesome, actually.
That would have been sweet. They would have been loving some Air Jordans back in the day instead of the crap they had. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's priorities in life, and kind of the crux of the whole financial preparedness stuff is prioritizing and getting out of that mindset that, hey, I've got to keep up with the Joneses, I've got to have the latest, greatest, and this and that. If you can get out of that mindset, you would be surprised how free you are on fronts besides just financially. So.
Yeah, and the freedom that you experience, we'll get to that, and we'll also get to, things you can do that are fun. I mean, come on, we like to have fun, obviously. I'm not saying just don't spend money on anything, but again, we'll get to that in a minute. So the first thing I would recommend doing before you do anything, though, is figuring out a way to set up an emergency fund. Emergency fund should be 6 to 12 months of your income, whatever it currently is. That way, if you lose your job, you've got, again, 6 to 12 months of your income you can use to find another job. Maybe you're sick of jobs and you want to do something that you've been wanting to do forever. That'll give you a little bit of time to learn a skill or, pursue your dreams, whatever it is you want to do. Or maybe you love your job and you have a car breakdown or you have some unexpected expenses. Well, you've got that 6 to 12 months of extra income saved up. So, Brent, do you like that idea?
I love it. Having a nice security blanket is fantastic. I know from personal experience, it's very hard to, like you suggested, 6 months. I look at the bills I've got to pay and this and that, and it's like, dear God, am I going to be able to eat trying to get to 6 months? And it goes just, you take one step at a time and everything. You obviously can't, set aside 6 months in a week. But no, I mean, trying to get something at the very least, prioritize your payments that you have to have. This is what I had to do. So we've got the rent, insurance, car payments, stuff like that. Those are things that, I can't get to work without a vehicle, so that has to be there. And I started seeing what I could do without, and then I started building my safety net from there. And once I finally got where I felt somewhat comfortable with that, then I was able to keep saving and actually tie in all the other payments as well. So, you might have to kind of prioritize a little bit, try to figure out what you absolutely cannot go without paying and build from there. But either way, yeah, I would say 6 months at a minimum. I like the 12 months. I know it's hard, but, you got to try to do what you can.
Yeah, and it can be something as little as, $10 to $20 a paycheck. Just put that aside, and the next thing you know, it's going to be built up. And at least it's something. And there's really no excuses, honestly. If this is something you're interested in doing, you want to get out of debt, you want to have this financial peace and freedom of saving, then you just got to do it. I mean, it's just like dieting, or if you're going to work out, or whatever it is you're going to do. If you're going to do it, you do it 100%. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to have to be some sacrifices, but there's no kind of half in, half out. You just do it. So the next step on that would be creating a budget. And the budget is going to allow multiple things. Brent, you kind of touched on that as far as prioritizing. You can prioritize your top bills, like you said. Prioritize your saving for your emergency fund into that. Maybe prioritize entertainment, a small portion of that, your groceries. Maybe you can cut back on your groceries. Maybe you need to cut back because you're 500 pounds. I don't know. Maybe you need to maybe you need to quit smoking. Maybe you need to get rid of something else. I mean, recently I've just kind of kicked my energy drink habit. I've been drinking about 1 to 2 a day, and then you sit down and you figure up, well, that's around $2 a can. That's at least $60 a month that I could have in my pocket or being spent on something fun, as opposed to just something that's, temporarily fun and then gone. What do you think? Do you have a monthly budget, or do you do something different?
We actually set up a weekly budget just because the way that,
Oh, that's even better, actually.
Well, it's just the way we get paid, and I mean, it technically, yeah, I guess you would look at it like a monthly, but it's more, we set it up like per week. We get paid this much per week, so we're going to set aside this much, maybe $100 for this, $50 for that, 25 for this, so that way we can account for almost every single dime that we have coming in. And like I said, I get paid every single week, and so that's why we did that, and that way, we don't have money just like sitting in the bank and doing this and that. We know what everything's going to go for. And something that amazed me when we actually sat down and started to do it is, I mean, we don't make a tremendous amount of money, but whenever we look at the things we have to have versus what we actually make, we're actually doing pretty well. And so you sit down and you start wondering, well, why can't I make ends meet? Why am I having so much trouble? Like you had mentioned earlier, there's people six-figure jobs that can't, seem to be struggling with money. And, we kind of found ourselves in, I mean, we don't make near six figures, of course, but, we kind of found ourselves in a similar situation. It's like, okay, we make enough money, we can't do this. Why? Well, you do the budget and you break it down and you're like, holy crap, I paid that much for video games?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, okay, well, I have to make a truck payment, so guess what gets cut? Well, there goes video games, there goes this. It's like, and you don't have to cut as hard as we did, but, you can cut, like, okay, say you buy, 2 or 3 games a month maybe, which is kind of outrageous, honestly, just money-wise anymore. But, buy one every now and then. Wait, especially with something like games, and this is a very specific example, but games, you wait 6 months, they're half price.
Yeah. They lose it's kind of like a car. As soon as you buy it, it loses value.
Well, right. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff that does that. And it's like, especially with the whole way games are now, at 6 months' time, whenever the prices drop, most of the downloadable stuff they're having come out with, it'll be around that time to a year old. Or they come out with a Game of the Year edition or whatever, thing they do, and you can get everything for a whole lot cheaper. You just have to delay gratification for, a few months. And that's, we talked about it a little bit before, but that's a lot of the financial problem everybody gets into is they can't delay that gratification. It's like they got to have this instant, need met just instantly, and they're spending well beyond what they should be. And the budget helped us kind of narrow down where we were doing that and start avoiding that. So it's helped a lot more than just, accounting for every dime.
It's a perfect segue into the next thing we're going to talk about. You talked about that instant gratification. You just can't wait to get the new game. You can't wait to go see this new release movie or whatever. What do? You put it on a credit card. That's what everybody does. Everybody lives on credit cards. I think that they have their place. I use my credit card to get gas. That's it. And in an emergency situation, I have it. But really, that's the fastest way to build up debt, and that's the next thing you need to do is get completely out of debt. Now, I understand that a mortgage and a vehicle are going to be a little bit harder because of the amount, but you can still do it, especially a vehicle. You're going to have to make that budget. Make the budget first for your daily stuff, and then your emergency fund, the next thing it needs to be for is to get out of debt. I mean, there's nothing else to talk about that as far as you just got to put your head down and go for it. What else can you do? Cut expenses, like we said. I've, totally switched my diet too, and I've cut out so much stuff that I'm basically skipping over almost the entire grocery store, other than like meat and produce, and that's essentially it. And I've seen my grocery bill get cut in half, and that's stuff I don't need to eat anyway, so it's just an extra expense that I've cut out. Another thing you can do is get rid of stuff. Walk around your house. And it might be stuff you actually love or like, or maybe it even has some sentimental value. Ask yourself, do you need it? If you don't need it, get rid of it. Put it on eBay. If you do need it, come back in 2 weeks and ask yourself that question again. Do I need this? Have I touched this item in 2 weeks? Does it warrant keeping it around? Or could I put it on eBay and have $5 in my pocket to save or spend on something else that we do need? Yep, that's just something that people don't think about. And then my last thing, and then I'll let you touch on all this, Brent, would be creating some form of secondary income. That could be getting rid of stuff. Like I said, I put stuff on eBay all the time, and it has become the second form of income. And maybe you need to get a second job. Maybe there's a hobby out there that will produce some form of money for you as secondary income you can do at night. Or, and there's people that work 2, 3, 4 jobs. So there's ways to do it, but you just got to do it. So I know I just touched on a lot of stuff, Brent. I hope you can give your input on that.
I know we ended up in a situation where I had to take a second job. I didn't enjoy it. I was waking up at 4 in the morning and, going and doing a very kind of bad job as far as just physically demanding job for, a long time. I say a long time, long enough to get, all the bills caught up and paid and get us where we had our head above water. And, just fact be told, sometimes that's how it has to be. Sometimes life sucks and you have to just go get a second job. And you have to make those sacrifices, to get up. One of my, favorite kind of motivational speakers has a, thing that's, rise and grind. And, a lot of times that's all you can do. You draw up a light at the end of the tunnel, like I need to make this much money to get my head above water. I don't care if I have to go work at Walmart on the overnight shift before I go to my day job, to get there. And, sometimes you got to do that. And like I said, it sucks, but, once you get to that end point and you get a freedom, you're no longer drowning in all of this debt. And, it's a remarkable feeling and you feel better about everything. As far as selling stuff, just try helping a friend move sometime. And it's amazing how much crap your friends have. And look at your own house and try to imagine trying to fit it all into a truck. And then, like you said, Zan, ask yourself what you could leave behind if you had to move, if you had to, change things. I know we just, moved a couple rooms around and stuff, and it was an absolute nightmare. But I probably found a dozen things just moving 2 rooms around that I don't need or want. And we're going to end up, probably having a little yard sale sometime just to get rid of the stuff. And, you look at your house and how much you have cluttered. If you're like me, there's so much stuff piled up in the attic, in the closets, and this and that. You got crap piled on crap, and it's all covered in dust. And you look at it and you keep telling yourself, well, I might use that sometime. Well, a year later you look at it, well, I haven't used it yet, but I could this year. Well, I'm sorry, forget that stuff. A lot of times that stuff, just needs gotten rid of. It's money in your pocket, or that could be in your pocket, just sitting there gathering dust. And, there's no sense in it. And once you start getting rid of that stuff, I don't want to get all kind of hippie and everything, but you start feeling better without the clutter. And, everything's a little more open and free. You don't have the stuff just kind of piling up as I'm sitting here staring at a pile of stuff I need to take care of anyway. There's a lot more that goes into it than, just what we've said, but there's so many ways to get that extra income and everything. You said we just talked about selling stuff, secondary job. There's all sorts of stuff you can try to do to set up an income. Go mow yards, if nothing else. You'll have friends that always complain about mowing. Well, hey, I'll take care of that for you for however much. Try to do something.
And if you don't want to get the second job, just like I said, take your cutting expenses to extreme. That's really what I've done, and I'm not even, I've gotten completely out of debt other than the mortgage, and I just continue to find, every day I find something I can do without, and it just is going to stretch your income that much more to allow you to save and maybe enjoy something. And let's jump into that. If you're living this lifestyle, not quite a minimalist lifestyle, because some people, literally do without anything. It's like they live in these big houses and they're almost acting like homeless people. It's like they have nothing. If you're having this lifestyle and you get out of debt and then you continue to live this lifestyle, you're just going to see your money start piling up. You're going to see your stress level go way, way down, maybe into nothing, because money just won't be an issue anymore, because you're going to have your emergency fund, you're going to have everything saved. And you can just keep on trucking, living the lifestyle, and become frugal on your choices. You were talking about stuff piling up. Start getting rid of that stuff and living this lifestyle. You'll start seeing things and say, do I really need to purchase this, or is this going to end up just like this other thing that I had to get rid of because I used it once and then never used it again? So, Brent, have you experienced that at all? As far as just like you said, lower stress level. I know you mentioned the hippie thing, but do you have anything else to add on that aspect of it?
Not a whole lot. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's honestly building a habit. You are breaking a bad habit, which, we talked about with, having to keep up with the Joneses and whatnot, and you're replacing it with a better habit, which is, more frugal living. I don't care what anybody says. Learning to do without stuff is remarkably freeing in my experience. Now, I mean, I'm not talking about, water and food and shelter and, living in a cave or something like that, but I mean, just, not having to go buy this and all this and that. It was remarkably freeing once I got on the other side of basically that addiction. And like you said, you start seeing the money pile up because you've built this habit in your head of, well, do I really need that or do I just want it? And, then it opens up avenues for, different investments, for different business opportunities, maybe going into business for yourself, getting in a position where, you can do some other things to even try to build that income even more. And like I said, you get used to that rising and grinding, you get the extra money behind you, and chances are you can start making your own path through life. I mean, as weird as that sounds, and you can get to the point where if you want to, where you could work for yourself instead of, having to go punch a clock and work for somebody else and do their jobs. You can do what you want. If you have a hobby, we, have the websites and everything that we have, and I enjoy woodworking and everything. I mean, we're always busy. Having that money saved up allowed me to buy some stuff for like woodworking where I can sell the furniture that we've had because I can make my own. And I can make it for, a third of the cost of whatever, I would go pay for it. So, I mean, there's even, weird benefits like that of everything. So, I mean, that's something else, to kind of look for.
All right, so we pretty much covered all of that, and maybe you think this is a boring lifestyle and you'd rather be in debt or something like that, but you get all this money saved, and you got to have a form of entertainment. You got to have some fun. So, Brent, I'll kind of put you on the spot right here. You mentioned video games earlier. If you get home from work or you've just got some free time, what all do you like to do for fun?
The two big ones I really like to do is my wife and I are in martial arts, so I will actually run through some of the stuff with that. I mean, I don't, get real crazy with it or anything.
You're talking like you run around, you do it at your house, like practicing, right? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one of the big things that, I do. I especially do, when my wife's home and we have a little bit of free time or whatever. And the other ones I like to read. I actually like reading more than I like playing video games. So, there's a lot of times if I have a quiet evening at home, the wife works late, whatever, I will actually sit and read. And that's an addiction I have that I can't get over, and I don't know that I'll actually try to fight it, just, to be honest, and that's books. I have a ton of them. I love reading them, and I probably always will. I've been tempted and thought about selling the games and everything. I love playing them. It's just there's too many other things I could do that I enjoy better and a little more productive with my time. But so what do you got?
It's funny you say that because I've actually been selling almost all of my video games. Like, I think I have a handful left. One thing you said is reading. I like reading comic books, and even if I've read it 100 times, it never gets old, just personally. Right. And there's something about a story of a book or a story of a comic book or a graphic novel, something about those stories kind of sticks with me in my head more than the story of a video game, which seems like, I don't know, for some reason video games seem incredibly linear to me and there's no creativity. Does that make sense at all?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of the games anymore, they're very linear. Even your kind of quote-unquote sandbox games, there's not really a big difference between what games were doing 10 years ago and what they're doing now. I mean, there are a few exceptions and everything, but mostly, for the most part, they're the exact same things we've played for decades now. And I'm like you, I would rather have everything built in my mind instead of being shown on a screen. And it makes me feel more a part of the story than it does, kind of watching it, be played out. So, I don't know, maybe that's weird. But
no, I think that has a lot to do with just people that are creative, people that like what we're doing now. We're doing this podcast. I mean, this is audio that's basically, framed at a moment in time forever. Yeah. It's something creative. It's not something you're just sitting down and mindlessly doing. Right. So I like comic books. I love pro wrestling, so I love to watch pro wrestling. I love to collect pro wrestling figures. That's junk piled on top of each other, which I'll get to in a minute. And I love to collect vinyl and pieces of music. Again, that's stuff that's piled on top. But let's stop and think about this. Generally, I don't buy a record or a wrestling figure or comic books or anything else that I like. I won't buy it if I can't get a good deal on it. There's some times where I'll find something super rare and I might spend a little bit more on, but because I'm out of debt and I live a frugal lifestyle, I'm able to do that without getting myself in trouble. And those are like not so much comic books anymore, but the figures and the records, those things hold their value very, very well. So if I ever needed to sell them for whatever reason, I wouldn't have a problem doing that. But that's it. That's the thing you got to do. Pick one or two things in your life that you love to do, whether it's like you said, martial arts. That's not something that's physical. You might be paying for some gear and might be paying for some instruction or the gas to get there, but that's it. And not only have you learned a skill, but it's something you can do at home that's just not costing you anything. Maybe you don't like to do anything and you just like to watch TV. Well, Netflix is only $10 a month. That's pretty reasonable if that was your own form of entertainment. So there's just, you've got to have some fun. You got to be entertained, but you don't need to go to Starbucks every single day. You don't need to eat out every day, and you don't need to buy frivolously. There's ways to have fun and find something you like to do, but yet do it on a budget and be frugal and get good deals on things. So, anything else to add on that?
No, I'm like you. It's, even books and everything. There's been a couple of them I've, really, really wanted, and it's like, yeah, I've got to go do this. I've got to buy it. But later again, like you said, out of debt, I can afford to go do that now and then. But most of them, even books and stuff, I bought, I don't know how many of my books on, like the Barnes & Noble bargain price, stuff. And, they're fantastic books. It's just, they're a couple years older. I haven't read them yet. Well, fantastic. If I can get one for $5 that was $25 a year ago, you bet I'm going to. I don't mind waiting. So
that's the thing. You got to be able to find good deals. You need a new washer and dryer. Buy the ones that's got the dents and the scrapes on it. Maybe you need to buy a new vehicle. Maybe it's dented, but that dent took off $3,000 for some reason. It might not be a sports car that you're wanting, but it's going to be something that's very practical and cheap. So I think we pretty much laid everything out for you today to kind of start thinking about getting your finances prepped. Like I said earlier, we're not trying to tell you need gold and silver, blah, blah, or you need to go invest in the stock market. In fact, I hate the stock market.
Right.
So, we're just telling you some common sense things to do to not only get yourself out of debt, but to just live a better life and get more towards that peaceful settler's life that I think we're put on this earth for. So anything to add before we close?
Nah, I think we pretty much covered, most of it. I mean, there's a whole lot of other things we could cover, but I mean, honestly, this has been a good introduction, I think. So
yeah, maybe down the road we can get like super in depth onto personal experiences on any of this stuff, but that'll be it for now. So hopefully you guys will take in consideration what we've had to say today and apply it to your life so everybody can live a happier, less stressful life. So thanks for listening, and tune in next time. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, the website, YouTube, everything. So have a good one.
Stay safe.